Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kyra.
My name is Dean.
And we are Vistas and Vittles.
So today we're going to take a bit of a different track and talk about some of the fears that we had when we were deciding to leave the United States and leave what we knew behind and embark on this journey to retire to Portugal.
And we had never seen a video that talked a lot about the fears that people were going to encounter. And we realized that we had a lot of fear when we were on the other side of this. And so we just wanted to talk to people and encourage you that a lot of the things that you're feeling, everything you're feeling, is pretty normal. And even though people don't talk about it necessarily, because you don't necessarily see a YouTube video entitled, like fears that you had before you came to, before you decided to move overseas, that like everybody has them and they're normal.
Right. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was my fear of retiring. I had been working in a career, an executive career, for about 25 years all told. And A, lot of my identity was kind of wrapped up in that career. B, a lot of my time was wrapped up in that career because I would work a lot of hours. And C, that was where a lot of our money was coming from because I had a pretty good salary. So for me, and I think I talked about this before, I was thinking that I would be working until I dropped. And the thought that I could actually retire was very foreign to me until Kyra showed me the numbers. But then knowing that I could retire didn't mean that I was not afraid to. I really had to put things in perspective. Did I really want to work until I was unhealthy and could no longer really enjoy my life? Really, was I that afraid of not working 60, 70 hours a week and actually having freedom? And C, how confident was I in our financial plan? And it took some doing. It took some late night conversations. It took me trying to figure out what to replace this job with now that I have more time. Hobbies, things that I've always loved to do but never had time to do. I'm writing again. I'm actually acting in a play. I used to be a professional actor once upon a time. And really replacing both the identity that I had from the job and also the time that I had from the job so I'm not bored really went a long way for me to feel good about the decision that we made.
Yeah, and I've been doing painting, which I had started to sort of manage the stress as we were moving from phase to phase. I'm also doing some writing, and I love to read, so I spend some time reading. So yeah, you kind of go from being nervous about what you may do when you retire to suddenly having time to do everything. And then a lot of times you'll get a phone call from somebody, hey, I'm getting ready to go for coffee. Do you want to go for coffee? And you get a text and you're like, yes, I can do that because I'm retired. And 3 hours later, you come back and you continue whatever you were doing.
Come back to an annoyed dog. Where have you been?
But it's so much fun to have the time to do those little impromptu things that you wouldn't otherwise have had time to do. The other thing that sometimes can come up for people is a fear of giving notice. So, and this is a very real thing, especially these days with everything that's going on with jobs and things like that. So the way we did it, I think, is maybe not what I would advise people to do these days. A lot of us, especially those of us that are older, have this thing in our head that we have to give 2 weeks notice. And one of the things that we would talk about is, it's very different these days if you're in a government job. It's very different if you're working for a company that's getting rid of DEI and might be really happy to get rid of you anyway. And so you can listen to us talk about the way we did it, but know that this may be very different in your case, and you may want to wait till the last minute. Both of us had jobs. I was working as a tour guide in San Francisco, and I was working for a couple of different companies, and I sort of just needed to tell them how it kind of works when you're an employee doing gig economy. Those particular jobs is you just say, hey, I'm available or I'm not available. And I had been working for my boss for a while already. And so I went in and I told her, hey, at some point this year, I told her, in advance, we are going to be moving and we think this is what the timeline is going to be. And she was like, fine, thank you for letting me know. And everything was good, but nobody tried to push me out the door. In fact, I was trying to work as many shifts as possible before I knew I would be starting the packing and, downsizing on the house.
And for me, I was running a department within a company. So I had to really work with the CEO of the company on a succession plan, somebody to take over for me and to take over my responsibilities. So I felt like I really did need to give more than 2 weeks notice. I gave a couple of months notice, but then I was confident that my boss wasn't going to show me the door immediately. This day and age, if you give notice, especially in a government job, you might give 2 weeks notice and find yourself clearing out your desk the same day.
Sometimes in tech jobs as well, because if they know you're leaving, you have access to certain kinds of information, and people are like, okay, we just kind of want you out. So this is something that if you have a partner, or if you're single and you have parents, or other friends who know what's going on, who are not going to tell your higher ups what's going on, really talk it over, talk about the situation that you are in, and make the best decision for yourself. This is one of those times that you're not going to think about everybody else. You're not going to think about, necessarily the company. You are retiring to move overseas. It's a big move. It's a big step. You are going to make the decision that is best for you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So another fear that we had was basically, Kyra mentioned, downsizing our house. A fear of selling or otherwise getting rid of our belongings, things with sentimental value, things that we had for a long time, things that we might need to buy again on the other side of the ocean because they were just too expensive to ship.
We had decided early on we were not going to put all of our things in a shipping container and ship them over, because we decided we had a couple of pieces that we personally were attached to, which was our bed that had been given to us for a wedding present, and a set of table and chairs that we'd had made for us in Amish country. But those were the only two pieces of furniture we were really attached to. And so we were like, it doesn't make sense to put just these two things in a container to ship it over. We'll just rebuy a table and chairs that we really like, and we'll rebuy a bed. It just wasn't that big of a deal for us.
And we had some things with sentimental value. We talked before, we did keep the art that we collected. Wherever we were vacationing, we'd always get some local art. That had sentimental value, so we kept that. But I also had a collection of antique swords, and transporting pointy things across the world could be a little difficult, so I decided that I could sell those, and again, there would be older and more interesting swords on this side of the pond. So, it is a fear, because you can become attached to things, but when you make the decision that suits you, in our case, downsizing almost everything that we own, there's also a certain freedom in that.
Mm-hmm.
it felt really good to be able to start fresh without 20-something years worth of
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that surprised us to just be able to throw everything in suitcases and come. That was, and I still think, when I think about how many suitcases we bought, we could have brought a couple less. But, still to downsize, what was it? 3-room, 2.5 bathroom house into, what did we end up with? 11 suitcases.
11 suitcases, and we are fortunate that we have a couple of friends who are watching over a couple of things that we couldn't take with us, which we're going to take next time we're in the United States, like a bigger piece of art, a couple of collectible books. But other than that, we had all of our belongings from a sizable house whittled down into 11 suitcases.
So, yeah, when I think about that, at first it seemed like we were never going to be able to do it. And then when we got it done, it was like, wow, this feels amazing that we are not, we don't have all the other stuff that we had. It was nice. I think one of the other things that came up for us was this was our only home. We didn't have like a cabin or something else, somewhere else. So we were unhoused, and being unhoused or, just not having a place to go felt a little bit, we felt untethered. We didn't have that one place to go. But then the morning, I think we had our VFS appointment during the week, and then by Saturday we were leaving the place. And driving off, we were kind of like almost giddy because we didn't own a toaster, we didn't own a coffee maker, like nothing. Yeah. We just had, and we had actually shipped some suitcases across the country to Dean's parents to hold for us because we were leaving from Boston. And we had a couple suitcases in the car and a few other things, and that was it. And we were just driving along going, wow, we have nothing.
And also, this happened quicker than we anticipated. We had some friends, and it took them several months to sell their house. For us, we thought it would be something similar, and the house sold in 10 days?
Yeah, 10 or 12 days.
And they also wanted a quicker closing. So all of a sudden, not only were we downsizing and holding
garage
sales, we were going to need to be out of the house inside of 3 weeks. So there was a definite sense of anxiety about what we were going to do. Now, we had planned to go stay with friends in Oregon and to visit family around the country. So it wasn't like we had no place to go. But the fear of being without a home, the only place that you've called home for years, was tangible.
And I think particularly in Black and African American families, there can be a thing about home ownership. You're taught that it's, almost a religion to, keep that piece of property that you were able to earn. And so I think I even had different feelings about letting the house go than Dean did. But I was also excited about moving overseas. And so when everything started to happen a lot faster, I was really glad I hadn't waited till the last minute to start packing. Because we already had like several suitcases packed, and we had already shipped some things out, and we were so glad that we had done that and we didn't just wait till the last few weeks, because it did kind of get down to where we were on the weekends. Particularly I wasn't working at that point. I was just kind of packing all day long, and that's why I would like paint something and then go and pack 3 or 4 boxes and paint something. And then I'd be like, okay, it's afternoon. Dean was working from home, so we'd go out, we'd go ship something at lunch. And, so we were getting everything done. But it was hectic. And, there was definitely fear. And we would sit at night and talk about, okay, what is your worst fear about this move? And I do encourage, if you're moving with a partner, if you're moving with a family, have everybody talk about how they're feeling about it. And I was like, okay, but is there anything that we're feeling that makes us want to stop this and not do this move? And we were both like, no, we still want to do it. We still want to go. And so no matter how scary the fears seemed in the moment, we were still just like taking that one step after the other step after the other step and moving through everything to try to go forward. I think also another fear that people have is just financial in general. Like, okay, I'm going to have to stick to this budget. I have this much to live on every month. Am I going to be able to do that? How am I going to pay for everything? Is it really going to be as inexpensive as I think? Am I going to be able to do some of the same things I've done at home? Am I going to be able to go to the movies, or am I just going to be stuck in my house? And we have found in general that where we are in Portugal, it's totally affordable for us to do what we need to do every day. Plus we can go out and eat a meal a couple of times a week and still stay on budget, and even a lot of times come in under budget. So that once again was a worry that we had that didn't need to be a worry. Now that we're here and we know where to shop for different things, you saw one of our shopping trips, but that was for some specialty items that will probably last us for the whole month. And then we'll go up to the fruit and vegetable market where we can get, onions and shallots and do, potato leek soup, or I made the oxtails, or, different things that we will make that are really inexpensive to make. And we will, that's kind of how we get through our month. Is I do cook. I love to cook. And we're able to throw a bunch of things together on a regular basis to, keep ourselves going, which is helpful.
Right. And, the financial fear was definitely there. And we've been kind of keeping track of our spending since being here. So in the next probably week or two, we're going to do a check-in on our budget after 6 months with the real numbers that we've been paying, and how they relate to our expectations. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
A fear that I had was being carless. Where we were in Northern California, you had to have a car. And I drove a lot for work, and I had a car that I liked very much. And, I used to get in the car, turn on Sirius XM, listen to the Beatles channel, and rock and roll, and have a great time on the drive. That was kind of my decompression time, my morning commute if I wasn't working from home, or my evening commute coming back. And I liked the freedom of being able to go shopping in the car. I liked the freedom of just being able to go out and go someplace. And actually, I was more emotional about selling the car than I was about selling the house. So part of our planning was, we knew that we, at least right away, didn't want a car. So we decided to move someplace that had easy access to Ubers, and also where most things were walkable, so that we didn't have the expense of the car, or the responsibility of the car, finding parking and all that. And it's been a great change, but there was a fear of lack of mobility and lack of freedom.
And here we just walk everywhere. It's not a big deal at all, unless we're going to go to Lisbon, and then we catch the Flix bus and we head down to Lisbon, and it's really inexpensive and easy. Or if we're going to go up and visit our friends that live in Porto, we catch the bus up there. The express bus takes about 3 hours, and we're retired, so we don't have to worry about the time. I think one of the other things that came up for us was losing our friends back home, worrying about, am I still going to be able to see this person? And also making new friends. And I think I might have talked about this before, but how it feels to us having moved here is, when we meet new people, it always feels like it's all the cool kids from high school all sort of met in this one place, and everybody's pretty interested in, what's going on with each other. Well, how did you get here, and where did you come from, and what were you thinking, and what are you thinking now, and when are you coming? And everybody's always asking each other, different questions about how they got to where they got to. And there's a certain camaraderie, because even though people say, oh, we're all in the same boat, most of us who are moving to Portugal have all been through a very similar process to get here. So everybody's like, okay, so I'm at this point in my process. Are you at this point? Great. What do I need to have, or what's going to make it easier for me to get through this next process? And everybody's always giving each other advice and things like that. And the people that you meet are wonderful. But luckily, because of Facebook and WhatsApp and, a lot of different technological things, Zoom, we are able to keep in contact with friends that we had before we ever moved to Portugal. And that has been great, because we've not lost total touch with, those people.
Mm-hmm. Another fear that we had was health fears. For me in particular, I have some health issues that I need to deal with on a daily basis. And I was very used to the health care that I was getting in the United States. I had a doctor that I liked. The health system that I was part of had taken good care of me. So I was afraid going somewhere else that I might not have that level of care. And frankly, when we told people we were moving to Portugal, when people asked about healthcare, you would think that they thought we were moving to the Stone Age. People really didn't have a concept that Portugal has a really good healthcare system. It's a little complicated to go into right now, but I can tell you that
we're gonna do it in an upcoming show that's just all on healthcare, our experiences since we've been here, and how much things have cost. And so it's taking us a little while to get all the details together. Plus, Dean has one more process he's going to go through before we want to share everything. Right. So, but we will be doing that in an upcoming show.
So, all I will say is that the doctors here listen to me more than they did in the United States. The technology is as good and better. Mm-hmm. And doctors actually take time with you. So the fears that I had about healthcare and about healthcare costs were unfounded. Mm-hmm. And when I got here, I was very pleasantly surprised.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I think in general, there can be just a fear of the unknown. I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm afraid of what I don't know that might happen. And that's totally normal, but you will get over that.
Yeah, and equal to that is fear of leaving what is known. Mm-hmm. Fear of leaving the familiar. Because as we've talked about before, when you're moving to Europe, things will be different. Mm-hmm. Things will be unfamiliar. You won't necessarily understand the language very well at the beginning. You knew how things work. You knew how to get your electric bill paid in the United States or Canada or wherever you're from. And it's a different process here. And there's a learning curve. So it's okay to step out of the comfort zone. I'm one who really doesn't like learning new things, learning new technology. So, when I had to start learning how to pay the bills in a different way, I kind of got into the, being paralyzed by the unknown. But really, it's not that difficult. Things here operate just fine. It's just, there's a learning curve, and mistakes will happen, but you learn how to do it. And I can't say that those fears were unfounded, but I definitely blew them out of proportion.
Yeah. I think the fear is up here, and what's actually happening is down here. And one of the last things we wanted to mention, we thought about this afterwards and we wanted to throw it in. So for those of you who have stayed all the way through the end, you're going to get this little bonus, which is when you're leaving a job, make sure you're giving yourself time to think about your COBRA and what your medical care is going to be like. Because one of the things that we did before we left was we went and got 6 months worth of prescriptions so that we were covered. Right after we got here, we didn't have to worry about running out and getting prescriptions right away. That is crucial. Highly recommend doing that, like, I don't know, a month before you leave, maybe 2 weeks before you leave, I think was when we actually did it, but right around 2 to 3 weeks before you leave.
And while we were in the United States, even after we had stopped working, when we were traveling around visiting family and friends around the country for about a month and a half before we got to Portugal, we were waiting for our visas, so we really didn't need to travel right away. We thought about healthcare. We thought about remaining covered under my health policy from my job, even though I was no longer working there. Working it out so that it was paid for, so that there was no gap in coverage, because you do need to have health insurance when you come to Portugal. So we set it up so that there would be no gap in coverage between when we left the United States and when we got to Portugal.
And I think now there's better nomad insurance than there was when we left, but we had the gap policy that you have to have between the US and Portugal. Then we had our Portugal policy, which was set to kick in. And then we had our old US policy, because neither one of us is old enough or eligible for Medicare or Medicaid right now. So we needed to cover ourselves. Now I know there are other nomad policies that people use. But anyway, that's it. That's the show for this week. We hope everybody had a great time. Thank you for coming back once again. And if you are enjoying the show, please subscribe and tell your friends, if you've got friends that are also coming to Portugal or moving to Europe or curious about that, please tell them to watch our channel. I say this every week, but we are trying to get to 500 so that we can do a live show. And I know a lot of people have texted us and emailed us, and they're asking us different questions, and we want to be able to answer those live, because usually if one person has a question, my experience from being a tour guide is if one person has that question, somebody else in the 45 on the tour bus also had that question. So it's kind of fun to be able to answer everything live. So we're really looking forward to that.
Thank you so much for your time, and we will see you on the road.